Disney's live-action Snow White remake quickly turned into a public relations disaster, despite being anticipated to be a bold reimagining of a timeless classic. The first point of disagreement was the selection of Rachel Zegler, who was considered a risky choice for a role so strongly tied to tradition because of her outspokenness. Zegler's decision to openly criticize the original Snow White infuriated fans even more. She called the film outdated, dismissing the romantic narrative and characterizing the prince as a terrifying stalker. Many Disney fans felt that this was a disservice to the movie as well as to a part of movie history that had helped the company succeed. Fans, especially those who grew up loving the original, felt duped. Zegler's words set the stage for a reproduction that was starting to feel more like a critique than an homage to the beloved original. When the keys were presented to such a well-known person, many believed she should have honored them. Instead, her disdain for the source material only served to feed a growing animosity.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story. With a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
The clamor increased when Disney announced that a wide variety of magical animals will play the part of the seven dwarfs. Many saw this as an attempt at political correctness, purportedly in response to actor Peter Dinklage's comments. But it backfired. Disney was losing out on the opportunity to cast actors of modest size in important parts, according to dwarf performers who voiced their displeasure. They had hoped for more representation in a film of this magnitude. Fans expressed confusion as well, noting out that the seven dwarfs were not just supporting characters but rather a vital part of the movie's heart and charm. By replacing them, Disney seemed to be altering the central plot of the well-loved tale. Rather than merely updating the plot, it appears that the entire basis was being altered to accommodate modern tastes. More than $5 million in today's money. This change doesn't appear to fit with the timeless themes of romance, adventure, and magic that define the original Snow White. In order to address contemporary societal problems, fans began accusing Disney of compromising the magic of fairy tales. The outcry was immediate because many people believed the remake was more about capturing the wonder that made the original so beloved. Successfully, however, the remake turned the magic of the fairy tale into an
that dream to be in a major motion picture such as this Disney remake. And now, because Peter Dinklage said what he said last year,
The comments made by Rachel Zegler extend beyond the original plot of the movie. Her strong political stance made the situation considerably more complex. Her disparaging remarks against Donald Trump and his supporters were like fueling an already blazing fire. Trump fans are pathetic and disappointed, Zegler said, even wishing they would never live in peace. Those were rather offensive comments for someone in charge of a major Disney project. The issue was sparked by her tone, which many found offensive and divisive, as much as by her political stance. In an atmosphere where viewers were already questioning Disney's direction, Zegler's comments significantly undermined support for the project. Many thought that rather than being about nostalgia and escape, the Snow White remake had become a battleground for cultural and political disputes. Her comments offended more than simply Trump supporters. They also expressed worries about Disney's role in the cultural disputes.
People who, it seems to me, have really suffered in all this are the 6 dwarf actors who would have expected to have roles in this remake in a massive Hollywood blockbuster, who are now not going to have that experience, or the money, or the...
As was to be expected, Zegler's comments sparked a furious response from Trump followers, many of who vowed to boycott the film. It was more than simply politics for these people who felt personally humiliated by a public figure associated with a family-friendly corporation such as Disney. They considered her remarks to be blatant insults and decided not to spend their money on a film featuring someone who held such negative views of a large portion of the American population. The issue became more complicated as a result of Disney's silence. Even worse, the studio decided to keep quiet rather than address the problem or openly condemn Zegler's comments. Conservative supporters, on the one hand, thought Disney should have handled Zegler. On the other hand, some liberals criticized Disney for not doing more to support the actress. The lack of a clear stance made the situation even more divisive. Zegler's comments exacerbated the already antagonistic political climate. turning what was supposed to be a beautiful rendition of a classic fairy tale into a symbol of the modern cultural divide. Not only should this loss not have occurred, it should not have occurred by such a significant margin. Trump, his supporters, and voters never realized that he let us down by failing to chart a new direction for the future. But it wasn't just Zegler's political remarks that sparked controversy. It evolved into a bigger accountability issue. Fans began to question why Zegler had not received the same treatment from Disney as other celebrities who had made controversial statements. Many pointed to Gina Carano's dismissal from The Mandalorian after her social media statements sparked backlash. But Zegler, who had said far more inflammatory things, kept working on the project. This double standard infuriated fans, who began to think that Disney was more interested in appeasing specific political factions than maintaining the rule of law. Many viewed Disney's uneven response to these events as just another example of the company making mistakes. The Snow White reimagining was more than just a film. It had come to symbolize Disney's internal struggles over public perception and corporate interests. The movie became a battleground for political and cultural disputes rather than a beautiful reimagining of a beloved classic.
In forging a new path forwards, this loss should not have been, and it certainly should not have been by so many votes, made Trump supporters and voters and Trump himself
situation by itself. The film's creation saw numerous setbacks as it went along, transforming what started out as a simple retelling of a beloved tale into a financial and public relations catastrophe for Disney, including a significant increase in costs due to reshoots and delays. According to reports, Disney spent hundreds of millions of dollars trying to save the project, but nothing seemed to work. Fans were not impressed with the released clips, instead of the wonder and fascination they had grown used to from Snow White.
Telling Rachel Zegler to behave normally just isn't an option either. So the other day, in response to the presidential election, Zegler had a very public meltdown on her Instagram stories. She wrote, quote, "F you, Donald Trump." Then she proceeded to insult the 75 million Americans who voted for him, quote, "I find myself speechless in the midst of this. Another 4 years of hatred leaning."
White modernized the story in a political way. The film was criticized for its feminist message, and many viewers believed that the plot had been changed to fit current political fads rather than honoring the original. To make matters more complicated, the release date has been continually postponed and is now set for 2025. Every delay led to negative headlines and heightened mistrust. As the budget went out of hand, many began to question why Disney was still investing in a film that appeared certain to fail. The leaks and the growing litany of controversies portrayed a film that was going awry. Supporters thought Disney was more interested in making a political statement than in preserving the magic and allure that made Snow White so special. Ultimately, after months of mounting criticism and costs, Disney had to shelve the live-action Snow White remake.
Comments, but it's certainly not the smartest marketing move ahead of this film.
No, I mean, it's a great strategy, putting out your leading actress to go ahead and piss off half of the American population.